Hello viewers, welcome back to our series of lectures on elementary quantum mechanics. Today we will take up part 2 of our discussion on valence bond theory. In this we will talk about hybridization. This in fact happens to be the last session in this topic. The lecture is planned as follows, that is, to begin with we will try to review what we did in the previous session. Thereafter we will try to establish the inadequacy of valence bond theory in describing the structural aspect of polyatomic molecules. Thereafter, we will see that how do we get over this inadequacy by invoking the concept of hybridization. We will take the example of the bonding in beryllium dichloride in this case. Having done that, we will move on to sp2 hybridization. We will take the example of boron trifluoride to talk about what is this hybridization and how does it explain the bonding in BF3. Thereafter, we will repeat a similar exercise for a methane molecule. And having done all this, we will try to use this concept of hybridization to talk about bonding in some other molecules. Lastly, we will try to sum up what we have done today. Let us start by recalling what we did in the previous session. You will recall that in the previous session, we introduced the valence bond approach to bonding in diatomic molecules. Thereafter, we explained the quantum mechanical description of bonding in hydrogen molecule taken as an example. We used valence bond approach as well as molecular orbital theory to do the same job. Having done that, we compared the two approaches to chemical bonding again with respect to hydrogen molecule. Then towards the end, we did make a mention of the inadequacy of valence bond theory, which now we want to take up. Let us see in what way is the valence bond theory inadequate. Before I proceed further, let me recall for you that in valence bond theory, the bond formation basically involves that the atomic orbitals of the two atoms which are going to bond together, they come closer, they overlap, and this overlapping leads to so called sharing of electrons or formation of a bond. So, that is the basic premise of it. Now, if I try to use that and take some example of a polyatomic molecule, I start with a very simple molecule like say water molecule. In water molecule, the central atom, that is oxygen, the electron configuration of oxygen atom is just 1s2, 2s2, 2px2, 2py1, 2pz1. Now, with this as electron configuration, if this has to form bond with hydrogen atom, then what can happen is that this 2py and 2pz orbitals which contain unpaired electrons, they will overlap with the 1s orbital of the hydrogen atoms which are coming there. So, they will form two bonds. So, essentially when I invoke valence bond theory and I want to talk about bonding between hydrogen and oxygen for formation of water molecule, I would find that there are two sigma bonds formed there, and these two bonds will be at an angle of 90 degrees, because these two bonds are formed by one is by pz, one is by px or any of the two p orbitals, and these two p orbitals are at an angle of 90 degrees. So, I would expect the bond angle to be 90 degree, but we know that experimentally speaking the experimental value of this bond angle happens to be 104.5 degrees. So, it does not explain here. Let us take another example. Let us take the example of beryllium dichloride. Here again we look at the electron configuration of the central beryllium atom, and that happens to be 1s2, 2s2. This is a very interesting case, because what we find is that there are no unpaired electrons. So, we do not expect any kind of bonding, but we know that beryllium dichloride does exist. So, how do we reconcile with that? Thirdly, let me take another case, say bonding in boron trifluoride. In this case, what we find is the electron configuration of boron atom happens to be 1s2, 2s2, 2px1. So, there is one unpaired electron. Since there is only one unpaired electron, I would expect a formation of a single sigma bond, whereas in BF3 we know that there are 3 sigma bonds there. So, how do we explain that? Let me take yet another case. Let me take the case of methane. The electron configuration of carbon happens to be 1s2, 2s2, 2px1, 2py1. Now, again you find that since there are only 2 unpaired electrons, we can form only 2 CH bonds, whereas in case of methane molecule, we know fairly well that there are 4 such bonds there. So, with the help of these 4 examples given here, we can conclude that valence bond description of bond formation by overlapping of orbitals with unpaired electron is inadequate, is not able to explain the experimental observations there. So, how do we get over this? Let us see how do we get over this. By taking the example of bonding in case of beryllium dichloride, we will invoke the concept of hybridization here. So, what we see is the electronic configuration of beryllium we know is 1s2, 2s2. So, I am just showing the valence electrons here, only 2s2 is shown. This helium indicates that is 1s2 over there. Now, we find that the valence electrons are paired up here. So, since they are paired up, they were not expected to form any kind of bonds with the unpaired electrons of the chlorine atoms there. So, the question comes up is, how does it happen that these two paired up valence electrons of beryllium interact with the unpaired electrons of chlorine atoms? That is a question we are raising here. So, the solution to this problem was proposed by Linus Pauling, who said that one of the 2s electrons which are paired up, that may be promoted to the 2p level. What it means is the following, that is, these two paired up electrons which are there in the 2s orbital, one of them gets promoted to 2p level, and what we have is an excited kind of a configuration over here. Now, this process is a energy requiring process, and that is the energy required for this process to occur, but Pauling said that this energy will be more than compensated once the bond formation takes place. We know that when the bonds are formed, energy is released. So, this little requirement of energy will be taken care of in the process of bond formation there. By invoking this kind of an excitation or promotion of electron, we find that we are having two unpaired electrons. So, we can form two bonds. So, our problem is resolved to some extent, but it is not completely resolved because the two bonds which will be formed now will be of different kind, because one of them will be between by the overlapping of a 2s electron of beryllium and a p orbital of chlorine atom there. The two will, that means, there will be sp overlapping, whereas the second bond will be of pp overlapping kinds. So, the two bonds are going to be of different kinds, but we know that from experiments that the two bonds are of same type, they are identical bonds, there is no difference between the two. So, just mere proposing that the one of the electron gets promoted and the bonding can take place is not sufficient. Pauling went further and he proposed that consequent to promotion of this electron, these two orbitals, the 2s, one electron there and another 2p orbital which contain one electron there, these two get mixed up together. That means, this 2s orbital and the 2p orbital, they mix together and give rise to two new orbitals which are called as hybrid orbitals. They are called as sp hybrid orbitals because one s and one p is involved in that. Now, when that happens, so what happens is, what it meant was this, the two orbitals are there, they will mix up together and they give rise to two new orbitals which are called as hybrid orbitals, and we find that energy of these orbitals are in between that of the two orbitals which are contributing to that. So, once these two hybrid orbitals are obtained, these two hybrid orbitals can be designed as follows, that is, we can call it as sp1 and sp2. sp1 can be created by a kind of a constructive overlap of s orbital here and pz orbital here, and this is by destructive overlap. Once that is done, we get two orbitals there. Now, we find that in these so called hybrid orbitals, the two contributing orbitals, that is s and p in this case, they have equal contribution there. That is why they call as sp, equal contribution between the two. Now, what happens is, once these hybrid orbitals are formed, you look at the wave function for 2s orbital, take that of 2p orbital, the two are interfering, and when they undergo constructive overlapping and the destructive overlapping, what happens is that because of this interference, we generate two new orbitals. That means, this is s orbital, 2s orbital, this is the 2p orbital, they were overlapping with each other, they are not exactly overlapping, they are mixing. In the process of this so called interference or mixing, they give rise to new orbitals which are of this shape and orientation. And what you find is that if I try to put the two together, we have a nucleus here and the two orbitals are like this. That is, the resulting orbitals are called as sp hybrid orbitals, and they consist of large lobe which are pointing in the opposite direction. That is very important here, because we find that one lobe is in this direction, one is in this direction, the two are directionally opposite to each other. When that happens, each of these orbital now contains one electron which is unpaired electron, and they can form bond with the p orbitals of chlorine atoms, and what you get is the desired molecule there. That is, what happens is the following: you have got a beryllium atom here, there are two sp orbitals there. These two sp orbitals, this one of them overlaps with the p orbital of chlorine here, same happens over here, and what you get is two sigma bonds over there, and mathematically they can be represented as we discussed in the previous session, that is a valence bond wave function can be given by the following kind of an expression. In this case, it is 2p1, 1 means the electron number 1 is with the sp orbital there, and electron number 2 is with the 3p orbital of chlorine atom. Equivalent expression over there, where electron number 2 is with sp, that is a habit orbital there, electron number 1 is in the 3p orbital of chlorine atom, and similarly we have psi 2, the second orbital there, second wave function for this bond formation to take place. So, this one of them represents a given bond formation here, the second one refers to the other bond formation there. So, we find that the two bonds are formed, and importantly, since these two orbitals are equivalent. So, what is important is that in this case, besides that the orientation of these two habit orbitals in space, these two orbitals, the sp habit orbitals, have the same composition. Therefore, as a consequence of their being identical or equivalent, the bonds which are formed now will be identical, and that is what is experimentally also observed. So, we find that by invoking the concept of hybridization, the inadequacy of valence bond theory is overcome. So, this one small example establishes that the so called inadequacy can be taken care of by invoking the concept of hybridization. Let us move further and see how do we make use of this concept in explaining bonding of bonding in the case of other polyatomic molecules. Let us take the example of bonding in boron trifluoride. Here we will be talking about sp2 hybridization. Let us see how do we go. It is exactly parallel to what we have done in case of beryllium dichloride. Now, here again we start by looking at the electronic configuration of the central atom here, and boron has a configuration, the valence configuration is 2s2 and 2p1. So, there are 3 electrons in the valence shell, but out of these 3 only one is unpaired. So, there only one bond can be formed, that is what we said earlier. Now, if we bring in, I am just taking 2 steps in one go, that is, if we invoke promotion as proposed by Pauling earlier, that is, one of these electrons gets promoted to this orbital here, and this orbital and these two p orbitals, when they get hybridized. So, what do we get is we get 3 hybrid orbitals now, they will be called as sp2 hybrid orbitals, and one of these p orbitals is left aside over there. Now, when that happens, that is one of the s orbitals and 2 p orbitals, they hybridize to give 3 sp2 hybrid orbitals. When that happens, that can be described mathematically in terms of formation of 3 hybrid orbitals, which are mathematically given by the following expressions there. So, essentially what we basically are trying to do is we are trying to mix the s orbital, that is the 2s orbital, and 2 of the 2p orbitals there together in different proportions. Say I take, say, first one sp1, say c1s, c2py, c3pz or whatever, and then we find out what is the c1, c2, c3. So, that is a mathematical exercise which you are not taking up there, but the resultant of that is shared with you. So, we find that the 3 orbitals have got the following mathematical expressions, and as mentioned earlier, the coefficients of these, that is the coefficients of these orbitals in the hybrid orbital expression, the proportion of each orbital in the hybrid orbital is given by the square of corresponding coefficient. Let us understand this. Now, suppose I take sp1 and the expression is that it is s plus 2 raised to power half py. Now, if I want to see what is the contribution of s orbital in this, what do I do? S is the coefficient is just 1. So, 1 square is 1, and that of the p orbital is 2 raised to power half raised to power 2, that gives me 2. So, if I just compare the 2, that is the contribution of s orbital is 1, that of p is 2. Let us look at the second orbital. We find that if we do a similar exercise here, it is 1 square is 1, for p 3 by 2 square root, if we take the square of that and so on and so forth, we find that it also comes out to be 2. If we continue with the third orbital, we find it again gives me the same distribution. That is, we can say the proportion of s and p orbitals in the 3 hybrid sp orbitals are in the ratio of 1:2. The contribution of say px, py and pz, they happen to be different, and that actually is very, very important, because when that happens to be different, that gives rise to 3 hybrid orbitals which are oriented differently in the space. So, we have got these orbitals are the starting point. This is a 2s orbital, this is one of my 2p orbitals, another one there. When they hybridize, they give rise to 3 hybrid orbitals like this, and if we put the 3 together, keeping the nucleus at the center, we find they are like this. That is, you have a nucleus here, one orbital is in this direction, other is in this direction, yet another one is this direction, and angle between these 2 orbitals, any 2 orbitals happens to be 120 degrees. We can say that is, the hybrid orbitals found by the interference between the 2s and 2p orbitals have enhanced amplitude in the internuclear region. What it means is, if I want to form a bond between say boron and fluorine, so this internuclear region, that is where we want to form the bond, and that region we find the electron density has increased. So, that means, in other words, put it simply, we say that hybrid orbitals are in a plane and they point towards the 3 corners of an equilateral triangle. That is the consequence of hybridization. Otherwise, the 3 orbitals, one was like this, a sphere, and the 2 were dumbbell shaped orbitals there. Now, with after mixing up, I got 3 orbitals which are in 3 different directions, mutually inclined at angle of 120 degrees. If having done this, now what happens is, these orbitals which you got as a consequence of hybridization, they overlap with the p orbitals of fluorine atoms to give us the desired molecule BF3. So, this is my boron atom. So, these are my hybrid orbitals. These hybrid orbitals then overlap with the p orbitals of fluorine atom and give me the requisite 3 bonds over there, and I get the structure of the molecule as it is experimentally observed. So, and they are the 3 kind of expressions for the bond formation. They are the valence bond kind of expressions for the overlapping between the hybrid orbitals, that sp2 in this case, sp2 1, 2 and 3, and the p orbitals of the fluorine atom there. So, we find that by invoking sp2 hybridization, we are able to explain the shape of boron trifluoride molecule. Let us move further and talk about bonding in case of methane molecule. Herein, we will talk about sp3 hybridization. What you see here is that this is the electron configuration of carbon atom in the ground state. So, what we do is, we, as we have been doing all these times, we promote one of the electrons from s orbital to a p orbital, and now in this case 1 s orbital and 3 p orbitals, each one of them having 1 electron gets hybridized. Since 4 orbitals are getting hybridized, I get 4 hybrid orbitals, and they are designated as sp3 hybrid orbitals. So, we can say that 1 electron gets promoted from 2s to 2p, and this 1 s orbital and the 3 of the p orbitals, they are hybridized to give you 4 sp3 hybrid orbitals, and they can be, the expression can be given as follows. What we see is that in these 4 hybrid orbitals, there are different kind of combinations of s and the p orbitals there. Now, the proportion of each orbital in the hybrid orbital happens to be, in this case, in the ratio of 1:3, and as you know that this is given by the square of the corresponding coefficients. Let me just calculate it for you for one of the orbitals here. Say s is 1 square is 1, p will be 1 square plus 1 square plus 1 square, that gives me 3. That is, the proportion of s orbital and p orbitals in hybrid orbitals is 1:3. Now, once you get hybrid orbitals, so this is a s orbital there are 3 p orbitals. When they hybridize, they give us 4 orbitals which are directed towards the corners of a regular tetrahedron. Due to this interference between these component orbitals, that is s and p, each hybrid orbital consists of a large lobe pointing in the direction of the one of the corners of a regular tetrahedron. This is very, very significant, because since it is pointing towards this, the angle happens to be 109 degrees 28 minutes. That is what is experimentally observed. So, having talked about 3 kinds of hybridization, sp, sp2 and sp3, let us try to compare the hybrid orbitals which are got so far. If you look at it, we find that each all the 3 sp3, sp2, sp, the 3 kind of orbitals, they have hybrid orbitals have got similar kind of shape. The only difference is in terms of the 2 lobes we get here. What you find is that say this is my sp3. In this sp3, this is the tail part of it, this is the head part of it. Head is the one where bonding takes place. This is the tail is larger, the head is relatively smaller. Head gets larger, it gets still larger there. So, we find that in case of sp orbital, we find that head is much larger, tail is very small. So, if you look at closely, it is something like s orbital, which is understandable because it is 1:1. In this case, the contribution of s orbital is less, p is more, it is 1:3. So, you find that it is more like a p orbital rather than an s orbital. This is more like s orbital. So, that is a kind of some general observation I thought I will share with you. Now, having learnt about the concept of hybridization and different types of hybridization in different contexts, let us see how can we use this concept to describe the bonding in certain common molecules. In case of ethane, we know that the central atom happens to be carbon. The atomic configuration, we know that if we do the promotion and do hybridization, we find that we are going to get 4 sp3 hybrid orbitals there. This 1 s orbital and 3 p orbitals hybridized to give me 4 equivalent sp3 hybrid orbitals. Then what happens is that, so they are the orbitals I have got. Now, one of the sp3 hybrid orbitals of one carbon, because ethane is a molecule having 2 carbon atoms. So, this is one carbon atom, another carbon atom, both of them undergo sp3 hybridization. So, carbon atom number 1 sp3 orbital here, another one here, these two overlap to give me a CC bond. And then there are 3 sp3 on this, 3 sp3 on this are left, 6 orbitals are there, each one of them forms a bond with a hydrogen atom, that is the 1s orbital of hydrogen atom. The rest of the sp3 hybrid orbitals on both the carbon atoms overlap with 1s orbital of hydrogen atoms to give CH bonds. So, essentially we get 6 CH bonds, and that is how do we describe the structure of it. That is, these 2 carbon atoms, this is sp3 of one, sp3 of other one, they form a sigma bond. This is a carbon-carbon bond. And then these sp3, 3 here and 3 here, each one of them overlaps with the 1s orbital of hydrogen atom to give me another sigma bonds there or CH bonds over there. And that is how do we describe the shape of ethane molecule. Very simple molecule, but we find that hybridization is very, very crucial here. Now, let us take the case of bonding in case of ethene. After promotion of 1s orbital from s to p, in case of carbon, now what happens is not all the 4 orbitals are taking place in hybridization, 1 s orbital and 2 of the p orbitals, they hybridize and they give rise to 3 sp2 hybrid orbitals. That is how we can show this. So, this orbital gets promoted here, they out of these 4 orbitals which I get now, only 3 get hybridized. So, I get 3 hybrid orbitals, they are designated as sp2 orbitals, and then one of the p orbitals stays kind of unhybridized, one p orbital remains unhybridized, and that is how do we pictorially show this. So, what you see is that this is my carbon atom, this is one of the sp2 hybrid orbitals, another one, yet another one, there are 3 sp2 hybrid orbitals, and then this dark one here is my p orbital which is unhybridized. So, that is the status of one of the carbon atoms. So, both the carbon atoms are similar. Now, what happens is, having got these sp2 hybrid orbitals, out of these 3 sp2 hybrid orbitals on each carbon atom, one of them, that means one from this carbon atom, another from this carbon atom, the 2 will overlap, and they will overlap, that means these are the one I am referring to. So, they are my sp2 orbitals, these 2 will overlap to give me a sigma bond over here. Now, the rest of the sp2 hybrid orbitals on both the carbon atoms overlap with 1s orbitals of hydrogen atoms to give CH bonds, and the lateral overlapping of the unhybridized p orbitals gives us the pi bond. Let us see pictorially speaking. Now, we see that these are the 2 carbon atoms, this is the sigma bond I referred to earlier by overlapping of sp2 hybrid orbitals from each carbon atom, and then this sp2 and the one going behind it and this one and this 4 of them, they overlap with the hydrogen atoms, there is a 1s orbitals there and give me CH bonds. This is CH bond, so is this one, and this unhybridized p orbital on this and this, they get overlap, lateral overlap and give rise to a pi bond. That is how the description of structure of ethene goes in terms of the concept of hybridization. Let us move further and talk about the bonding in case of ethyne, that is acetylene. Here again we can say that there is a promotion of electron from 2s to 2p, and then thereafter what happens is, in case of ethyne, what we do is we just hybridize only 2 orbitals there, one s orbital and one of the p orbitals there, and that since there are 2 orbitals are getting hybridized, I get 2 hybrid orbitals and they are designated as sp hybrid orbitals, and 2 of the p orbitals remain unhybridized. So, one sp hybrid orbital from each carbon atom, they will overlap to give a carbon-carbon sigma bond. That is how we can show that these are my 2 carbon atoms, 1 and 2. This is my sp orbital here, so is this one. These 2 overlap to give me a sigma bond here. And the second sp here, as on this carbon atom, they will overlap with the hydrogen atom to give me a carbon hydrogen bond. And these are the unhybridized p orbitals on the 2 carbon atoms there. Then what happens is, these unhybridized p orbitals, they undergo lateral overlapping and they give rise to pi bonds there. We can see that they are the sigma bonds I showed you earlier. This is my CC sigma bond, this is my CH sigma bonds there. So, these p orbitals, they will get overlapped and they give rise to 2 pi bonds, one from px and px, one will be from py and py, and that is how the shape of the structure of acetylene or ethyne molecule can be described on the basis of hybridization. Let us sum up what we have done today. We reviewed the contents of previous session where we talked about valence bond theory, the basic aspects of that. Thereafter, we established the inadequacy of valence bond theory in terms of describing the structure of polyatomic molecules. Having done that, we introduced the concept of hybridization. For this, we took the example of beryllium dichloride and showed that how does the concept of hybridization help in understanding the structure of this molecule. Thereafter, we discussed the bonding in case of the molecules like BF3 and CH4 using the concept of hybridization. Thereafter, we used this concept of hybridization to explain bonding in some simple molecules like ethane, ethene and ethyne. With that, we come to an end of this series of lectures on elementary quantum mechanics. Thank you.